So for me, I've been working on environmental and social justice issues like land acquisition, encroachments, and livelihood impacts. So these are the most issues that I engage with on day-to-day basis.
I confront the harmful practice of child marriages, which is forced early child marriages, and also gender-based violence, and a whole lot of other violences against women and girls.
So I'm an international human rights lawyer working at Thai Lawyers for Human Rights. And what we do in Thailand is that we provide legal representation to activists, human rights defenders, including children, charged and or prosecuted for exercising their right to freedom of expression or peaceful assembly, criticizing the government, demanding for democratic reforms or monarchy reforms.
Actually, I'm a journalist, and every day when I wake up, I receive a lots of messages from the women that they are right now living under the control of the Taliban with a very, very difficult situation. So when I'm receiving this message and they are asking that, can you just do something to raise our voice for the international community, because you are not living in Afghanistan and you're outside and you're also a journalist, so it makes me more motivated to do something as a human rights defender, because now the situation is not good in Afghanistan, and I know that maybe a report of me, or maybe I'm writing something on social media, or maybe when I'm attending in conferences in international NGOs or somewhere, when I'm talking about it, it can be helpful for everyone. So that's why.
The biggest support that I feel is needed to confront these issues is a responsive government that looks at the issues that the communities raise. For instance, if there is an environmental pollution issue like discharge of waste in a nearby agricultural field, so there needs to be a responsive government and regulatory agencies who addresses these complaints by the communities.
I really need the support of political influencers. I believe politicians have a very good influence in how people think, in as much as we understand that people try to run from whatever that is right and follow the status quo. So that's one area. And also because I work with deep community people, like traditional leaders, they are also very vital in changing the social norms. I believe that whatever change that we want to see starts from the mind and the behaviors of the people. So these are the people that can actually influence that.
So right now, we provide them with representation, legal representation in court, but it would be extremely useful if the world were to also know more about what's happening right now in Thailand. I think when people think of Thailand, they think of beautiful beaches, they think of beautiful, delicious cuisine. But I think there's another side to Thailand, lesser known to the world, a side where people are fighting for democracy and they're fighting for fundamental freedoms. And it would be really good if the world happens to know more about that side of Thailand.
I'm a journalist, and even as a human rights defender, we need support of the international community, European Parliament, all international NGOs, and also the human rights activists that they are not in Afghanistan, they are outside of Afghanistan. Come together and let's do something for the people of Afghanistan, mostly for the human rights, that right now the humans in Afghanistan, they doesn't have the real rights there. And the only support that we needed to just support the women and raise the voice of the humans in everywhere. So this is the only things I think.
So for me as a human rights defender, a daily routine is very different from another day of routine. So one day I just engage with communities and try and understand their impacts and their issues, try and legally empower them on their rights, the environmental issues that they can pick up, and where the legal remedies lie. On another day, I will just sit down behind a desk, look at legal documents and do legal research on issues like impacts of extractive mining on communities. So a daily routine for me is very variable and it depends on the project that I'm currently undertaking.
I can say my daily life has kind of changed since 2015 when I challenged the government of Zimbabwe to raise the ages of marriage to 18 for girls and also to just change the marriage system for girls as well. And when I started the advocacy on the age of consent for sex for people in Zimbabwe, and basically the whole issue around child marriages, because I'm also a survivor of child marriage. So I can say my daily life, it's pretty challenging because you see around, I live in a community where this issue constantly happens, and I also have to think around the ways of how to engage these people and the context that they are living in, because in as much as we say they have rights, they also don't recognize that it's actually a right not to be married or a right to enjoy being a child. And because of the situation in our areas, so for instance, most of the people that I engage, one of the penetrating points will be you need to get educated, so child marriage is not right. And the next question will be, why do I need to get educated? Those are some of the questions that I get, because they don't get employed because of the economical situation that we have in my country. And the other issues of, if I don't get married, are you going to support me with the child that I'm carrying? Because in the instances of teenage pregnancies, those are some of the questions. So it's really challenging. Every day you need to, I feel like if I was a billionaire, I would be constantly finding ways to address these social issues.
It can be tiring, honestly, and especially now that we still have hundreds of criminal cases that we continue to provide legal representation for. We now have a civilian-led government and not a military government anymore. But at the end of the day, there are still cases of political prosecution that we have to deal with, and that can be tiring at times.
When I received a message from a girl in Afghanistan that she told me that, I have a lots of ambitions and I have a lot to do, but unfortunately I can't, because she is not able to go to schools because the Taliban are banned schools for the girls, and also there's no university for the girls as well in Afghanistan because everything is not going well. So my daily life is like always fighting with these things. I'm writing the reports, I'm publishing it because I'm a founder of Future Afghanistan. It's a digital media agency. We publish all this news in this agency and also writing the reports for the international medias. So my life is every day in contact with the people inside the country. As a human rights defender, I can't do this, to write and raise their voices, because I don't want to be silent in here, because I'm in a safe place in here. I can do a lot for them, but the daily life is really difficult. I mean, receiving a message and you makes this message you emotional. Sometimes you're crying. Sometimes you are thinking that what will be happen in next 4 years or 3 years. If I can't do anything anymore, what will be happen? So sometimes I'm thinking this is life, and we are here to fight for everything, but first for the humans and everywhere, not only in Afghanistan. Fight for those who doesn't have their real rights.
So for me, 3 main reasons that I'd particularly say that apply for the Venice School was one, that I have previously worked in India with communities and frontline environmental defenders on environmental and social justice issues. So I understand the challenges that these communities and defenders face while trying to access justice. So the Venice School in itself provides me a better understanding of mechanisms that exist in the international law and also the regional frameworks to help communities and defenders back home and work towards that way. The second reason that I would say that I applied to the Venice School and is also about networking. So in itself, like being here for almost 6 days now among peers who are working as journalists, as human rights lawyers, and in various different fields, I feel that it is important to understand and have a very resourceful network so that you have opportunity to raise issues in a more prominent way. So for instance, if I'm working on a story with communities on environmental justice issues, just having a network with a journalist here would definitely help me raise it in a more prominent way. The third reason that I would say I would applied for the Venice School itself was very personal. So for me, last couple of years have been challenging, where I've been facing challenges working in India on environmental issues. So like being here in the school in a safe space, I feel it instills that belief back, in the sense that I'm working in the right way. I'm working towards bending the arc of justice. So it gives me that belief, that hope that sometimes can go up and down. So I think so that is the three big reasons why I applied for the Venice School.
I'm very much interested into understanding some of the nuances into being a human rights defender, how other people are able to navigate the space. The second reason was when I saw, well, a friend of mine told me about it, but when I saw the part where I'll be able to connect with members of the Parliament, of the European Parliament, that was one of the biggest reasons why I wanna be able to connect with them, to influence or ask them or call for them to respond to the situation in Africa, the situation of child marriages. Another third reason was because I'm also I started an organization called Passionate Circles Trusts that responds to the issues that I work around, child marriages, children's education, and so forth. I feel like this was going to be one of those spaces that I would get to connect with people that have been finding support, be it technical support or financial support, and they can be able to share with me how that has been working and how they've been able to navigate and work around finding that kind of support.
I applied for the Venice School primarily because I think it's time for me to improve my own ability to defend human rights. And I think that's really important, especially in this changing world where we are confronting new challenges almost every single month. So I think it's a really good time for me to update my skills, to upskill myself so that I can better provide assistance to people in Thailand.
I followed the social media of this campus, and I was very motivated when I saw the pictures of the other fellows in here. They come, and also when I checked the website, that there's a lot that I can learn from the professors that they are teaching the other students in here. It was the first thing. And the second thing that I really motivated to be in here to learn new things. Like as a human rights defender, I know that everyone is coming here with a different experience. We are communicate with each other, we share our experience with each other, and we learn from each other. Even with the professors that we had a very, very great sessions in the past 4 days in here, like at home. We learn a lots of things like about the UN organizations, for example, about the human rights and how to be a real human rights defender. And as well as a journalist, we learn some like OSINT method tracking for investigative reporting, as well how to filming. So like these things make me motivated to apply for this training.
I'd like to mention that communities are a very central part of environment and socio-economic development in India. I would say that any development that happens needs to be very inclusive, and that communities should have a seat at the table. So that is my only appeal, that whenever any project that has the tendency to impact the traditional livelihood, like fisher folks or like farmers, there needs to be a free and prior informed consent of the communities, and they should be told, and like all these impacts should be mitigated. So development should happen with them, and like it should not be down the throat kind of a development for the communities where they are just told that a coal power plant is going to come next to their agricultural fields, but like they are included in the entire decision making process.
I was working on the African Union Convention on Ending Violence Against Women the past year. I have been working with a community organization to do that. I would call for the European Parliament, I would call for the African Union, I would call for the member states in Africa right now to sign on that convention, because it was actually adopted in February this year. For them to sign on it, but not only sign on it, but also implement it and domesticate it in their different countries. I know it might not be the best document, but because it actually came from the people themselves, we had so many young people from my community that even participated. We managed to go to so many different places to consult and for that document to be actually developed. I feel like it is one of those documents that speak about violence against women that have been influenced by the people that are mostly affected, especially the people in the marginalized communities.
For those who don't know what's happening in Thailand, here's a brief summary. Since 2020, when young people in Thailand rose up to demand for democratic reforms and monarchy reforms, since then, almost 2,000 people, including more than 280 children under the age of 18, have been charged or prosecuted under various repressive laws. And since then, we have been trying to provide them with legal representation so that people can speak truth to power, so that they can demand democratic reforms, and so that they can demand for fundamental freedoms. We think it would be really good if the world were to also know about these brave, courageous people in Thailand, human rights defenders, young people, young students who decide to stand up to speak what they believe to be right.
We need the support of international organizations, support of EU member of the parliament, support of the all people that they are living in anywhere in the world, to stand with the people of Afghanistan, stand with the women in Afghanistan, and raise their voice and don't be silent, because 36 million people inside Afghanistan, they don't have their real rights.
When I look back over the last 6 days, there's been so many moments that I feel that I can talk about for hours. But for me, the biggest standout has been like just hearing stories about the participants and also like the resource persons that we had in the school. So as I mentioned earlier, like one of the reasons I applied to the school was to just like reinstill that belief and hope. So just having that listen to those stories, very inspiring stories from people all around the world, and like the kind of work they are doing. So that has been the biggest takeaway for me from the Venice School.
If I am to say one or two elements that have been really the best of this Venice School so far, one was the training on filming as human rights defenders, the issue of constant documentation of the work that we have been doing, how important that is, and constantly thinking about the relevance and the reliability of using those kind of documentation pieces, be it when filming in the day-to-day events and so forth. I'm personally going to use that in further on in my development or in my defense on human rights, especially on the issues of child marriages and the violences against women and girls. The second part that I'm going to adopt, which I found really exciting for me during this Venice School, was the showcase of the experience of Lawrence Sala when he showcased his own reality of how he was abused and how his human rights were stripped from him. Himself as a survivor, acting that out in a way that no one else could tell him to do stuff, but he was able to express himself in that kind of manner. I am going to use that definitely because I'm also a researcher on arts-based methods, on child marriages, and I'm now moving on to recently worked on a pilot project on arts-based methods with girls with disabilities in Zimbabwe, and also now moving on to supporting another PhD student to do arts-based method research on child marriages as well in Zimbabwe. I feel like where I'm coming from, where people are not able to express their issues because of certain backgrounds or because they are not well educated enough to write a piece or a document, expression using that kind of art would be really instrumental to bringing out the emotions even of our political leaders to see the realities of the situations of these people.
I think it's the diversity of participants and the diversity of subject matter expertise that are being discussed in this school. I'm learning so many new things in so many new areas, be it gender-based violence on the one hand, environmental rights on the one hand, how to properly communicate human rights narrative to the public on the other hand. So there's so many subject matters being discussed in just 1 week. So I thought the diversity of the people and the diversity of the subject matter expertise was really, really interesting.
Actually, there are lots of elements, but the one that I really enjoy that I was in here, it was the networking between everyone, making a new connections. Because I'm a journalist, and the key of the journal as journalist is this networking. And that's why I meet lots of people in here. And so now I'm in a big community of the human rights defender. Absolutely, it helped me a lot in my future life, because when I need something in some other countries, I can't remember the name of my colleagues or the professor that we was together in 5 days in here. So it means that for me it was very enjoyable, because now I have lots of networks in my community as a human rights defender.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. สวัสดีครับ
Bye.